There are a lot of options today when it comes to post-emerge corn herbicides. We're going to go through those both in terms of broadleaf control and grass control.
Let's start with the grass control because it's a little shorter discussion. If you have Roundup Ready corn or Liberty Link corn or corn that's tolerant to both Roundup and Liberty, well, those are great options, and you're really not going to have to be too choosy about what grasses you're going after because both of those products will do a pretty good job on all grasses. Now with Roundup, you can get by with a little bit lower rate on really small grasses, and just on the perennial grasses, you'll need a really strong rate of Roundup, probably up to the maximum labeled rate. With Liberty, it's a little bit different. It's not quite as good a product as Roundup on grasses, so on things like foxtails, you're going to need a full quart of Liberty out there to do a pretty good job. The best grass weed, surprisingly, that Liberty has control on is woolly cupgrass. We used to get good control on woolly cupgrass even with a slightly lower rate of Liberty. So for weed control with Liberty and Roundup, you've got great options. Conventional corn though, you've just got one choice, and that's Accent Q. You've got to get those grasses when they're an inch tall or less. And to get Accent Q to work the best, you'll also need to have some oil with that, typically a crop oil or methylated seed oil. And also you're going to need a good amount of nitrogen. I prefer 1 gallon per acre of liquid spray grade 28% nitrogen, but you'll see recommendations vary on that in different parts of the country.
Now, Darren said we're going to start with grasses, and when he talked about Roundup, Liberty, Accent Q, you might have thought, well, wait a second, how about all those Group 15s, Harness, Surpass, Outlook, Dual, Zidua? Those don't have contact activity. Those only have residual control. What we wanted to focus on today was if you've already got grasses up, how are you going to burn those down? Now, we do occasionally get some people that will tell us, well, the HPPDs are really good at burning down grasses. No, they're not. I don't care if we're talking Loudus, Impact, Callisto, Armazon, it doesn't matter. They're not very good. Yes, it's possible to control some grass, but let's keep in mind we could go back to the old days when we used to spray a lot of dicamba. Guys were using a pint of Banvel or Clarity. That actually would control some grasses as well, especially if you throw a little bit of atrazine in there. So what we're talking about with grass control is if you've got quite a few grasses out there and they have escaped and they are now bigger than a 1/4 inch or a 1/2 inch tall, that's where it's basically Roundup, Liberty, or Accent Q.
All right, let's switch gears here and talk about broadleaf weed control. Brian mentioned the HPPD family, the Callisto, Loudus, Impact, Armazon products, or the mini combination products that contain one or more of those HPPD products. They're really nice broadleaf control products. I like them a lot for the large seeded broadleaves, things like cocklebur and sunflower. I like them for velvet leaf control. And they also do have a little bit of residual activity to pick up some of the late emergers, which I like as well. They're also pretty safe to the crop, which is a pretty good thing. You want to spray them within their labeled timings, of course, but they're less harsh on the crop than some of the older chemistries that are out there on the market. Where I see a weakness on these HPPDs is they just aren't very good on the viney type weeds. So things like field bindweed, not a big fan of the HPPDs on them. Also, I'll say with the HPPDs, we do see a little more activity with them when you can mix some atrazine in. Even a 1/4 pound to a 1/2 pound per acre really improves their control.
In terms of weaknesses with the HPPDs, Darren mentioned viney species like field bindweed, wild buckwheat, but the things that I focus on with the HPPDs in terms of weakness are, number 1, we worry a little about carryover, so be concerned about what you're rotating to, and number 2, weed resistance. We have seen a little bit of weed resistance pop up with the HPPDs, so we really encourage you, please use multiple modes of action. Now, the other main product that we talk about, other than the HPPDs, for post-emerge broadleaf control in corn is Status. Status is fantastic. It's a combination of diflufenzacapir and a little bit of dicamba. And what I always tell people is with Status, hey, if you've got every weed under the sun and it's a mess out in your field, Status is the product you want. It is by far the best. It is absolutely better than the HPPDs, but the problem is it costs about 5 times the amount of money.
One last thing I'd mention, Brian, you said the 2 main ones here were the HPPDs and Status, and I'll agree with you, but we still have a lot of farmers out there spraying Roundup in this post-emerge application. Maybe it's for grass control, but we're still getting quite a bit of broadleaf control out of that, but not everything. There are enough Roundup resistant weeds out there that most commonly we're seeing Roundup tank mixed with something else, like one of the HPPDs, for example. That's fine. but be careful what rate you're using of each of those two. Now with the Roundup, you may be going out there with a quart, and that's fine. With the HPPD or whatever component you're adding to it, a dicamba or something, you want to make sure you're running at the full labeled rate or very close to it. Because think about it this way, if there are Roundup resistant weeds like pigweed out there, your Roundup is doing nothing on them. So you're relying on that other tank mix partner, you better be at a strong rate.
The last thing that I wanted to mention here is something that really came out of 2019 a bunch again, where people weren't able to spray timely because of rainfall, and so we had lots of questions about brown silk applications. Yes, you can go in super late and spray some 2,4-D with drop nozzles or something like that if you want to, but man, I hate that stuff. We've never done that on our farm, nor will we. I would just as soon we spend no more money at that point. The key for corn yield is you have to keep that field weed-free from the time the corn emerges until the time the corn is a foot tall, maybe 1.5 feet. If you simply do that, you will maximize yield. Now, yes, if some weeds come late, you're gonna have an issue moving forward. You're gonna have a lot of weeds you gotta kill at that point. But I would just say try to get the spraying done relatively early. Let's get some residual herbicides out there. That's usually where we maximize yield, by having that good weed control early.
Well, if you have our Weed of the Week in your fields, you'll definitely be spraying early to get this under control. Can you identify our Weed of the Week?